Hi, everybody, and welcome to Baseball Discourse. I am Dan Lovallo. Recently, we had the passing of UL Washington, who played in the major leagues for 8 full seasons and parts of 3 others, mostly with the Kansas City Royals, but he also played briefly with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Montreal Expos. I had the opportunity to have a brief interview with UL back in 2001. At the time, I was broadcasting games for the New Britain Rockettes. They were the AA affiliate of the Minnesota Twins, and UL was a roving hitting instructor throughout the Minnesota Twins minor league organization. And he happened to pass through New Britain, and he was kind enough to give me an interview for about 3.5 minutes. That's about all the time we had, but he was terrific. Talked about a number of things, including his famous toothpick. So let's rewind the clock back to August of 2001 and my interview with UL Washington. UL Washington, UL, the last 2 games, the ball club has been in double digits as far as base hits. Is the team starting to come around hitting-wise, do you think?
Well, you know, it's funny. They always seem to do that when the hitting coach comes to town, the roving hitting coordinator. I don't know what it is. When I was with Kansas City and I was the hitting coordinator over there, every time I came to town, they swung the bat. A lot of times it's just hearing a new voice and getting back to the roots. And you know, it's funny that the way this game is. A lot of times you can say things and finally it clicks. And I think these guys are starting to feel like they can play and be competitive in this league.
Jeff Smith, of course, is starting to come around, and he says you've been doing a lot of work with him. Talk about Jeff.
Well, Jeff is a guy who does a few things. He's pretty meticulous about everything he does, and we've done a lot of early stuff and worked with lower body stuff and upper body stuff, and just tried to get him a little in a bit more control when he's at the bat and use his hands. And he's coming around. It's just going to take a little while. He came into the year a little frustrated about not going to a higher level, and it's kind of hampered him. So we just got to get him back grounded again and get him to think about taking care of this game day to day.
You played over 900 games in the big leagues, mostly with Kansas City. What do you remember about your big league career?
Well, I remember playing with some pretty solid ball clubs. Of course, back during that time, teams stayed together a lot longer. I was telling some of the younger guys out here today that when I broke in, 3 guys broke in that year, Willie Wilson, myself, and Clint Hurdle. And the only guy that played every day was Willie Wilson, and Clint Hurdle and I kind of had to stay in the background for a couple of years and learn the ropes, because at that time you didn't want to bring a young guy up there and for him to fail and get down on himself. So a lot of times that's good for people. But I remember just being on real solid ball clubs with good pitching, good defense, and a lot of guys who tried to do a little extra, get extra bases, doubles, triples, whatever we could do to win the ball game, we tried to do it.
I'm sure you've been asked a million times, so I'll ask you, what about the toothpick?
Well, the toothpick is just something I kind of picked up. I guess I picked it up. My father always had one in his mouth when I was a kid, and I couldn't stand to chew tobacco or dip snuff. It made me sick, so I threw the toothpick in my mouth, and I'm not sure it was a lot safer than the tobacco or the chew. You know, you get sick on the chew or the dip, but if you swallow one of those toothpicks, you can be in a lot more serious trouble. But it's just something I did, and it really never affected me anything. It just kind of, I guess, it brought the hot dog out in me. That's what they called guys back in my day when you did little extra things. You have to find ways to give yourself confidence, and that was one of the ways I found.
Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
Well, there you have it, my interview with UL Washington. As always, thanks for watching. I'm also, as a podcast, in all the podcast directories now. Baseball Discourse is in the Apple Podcast Directory and several other podcast directories if you'd like to follow the audio portion of the podcast. And be sure to subscribe to this channel or go to baseballdiscourse.com. Again, thanks for your support. I'm Dan Lovallo.